Well, India is not only battling the second wave of COVID, but also the shortage of oxygen, ventilators, vaccines, and other healthcare infrastructure. With the third phase of vaccination drive underway, India has approved 2 COVID medicines in the last few days. One is DRDO's 2 Deoxy-G-Glucose, which is approved for emergency use by the DCGI. The drug comes in a powder form, in a sachet, and is taken orally by dissolving it in water. It was cleared after clinical trials showed a result that the molecule present in the drug helps in faster recovery of hospitalized patients and reduces supplemental O2 dependence as well. And talking about the second, India has approved a Switzerland-based drug maker Roche's antibody cocktail. It is of 2 antibodies, which is the Casiri-Vmab and Indi-Vmab, used for the treatment of mild to moderate COVID-19 in high-risk patients. It was also consumed by former US President Donald Trump when he contracted COVID-19 infection last year while he was still the president. We'll talk about this, what more needs to be done in ensuring that the scientific acumen as well as the scientific progress is in par and pace with the kind of virulence of the virus that we're getting to see specifically in India. To talk more about that, joining us on the broadcast is Padam Shri, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman and MD of Nephron, also joined by Padam Shri Professor Dr. Wali, cardiologist and physician. Last but not the least, Dr. Girish Tyagi, Secretary of Delhi Medical Council, I beg your pardon, and former President of Delhi Medical Association and former Joint Secretary of IMA, is joining us on the broadcast. Dr. Bagai, I'll start with you. We spoke of the DRDO medicine which has come about, and there's another one which is being hailed as a lifesaver, and that is a drug which has been manufactured by a Switzerland-based company. But the challenge over here is, the turnaround period from the time you approve these vaccinations, approve these drugs, approve these supplements, and to the time they get to the people who really need it.
Good evening, everyone. Vineet. So first, let's start with the indigenous product, which is called as 2DG, 2-deoxy-D-glucose. So the virus needs glucose for its own metabolism. Now, when the spike protein of the virus is binding on to the ACE receptor, there is a host of energy which is released, which the virus needs. And it is called an uncoupling of the S1 part of the protein to latch on to the ACE cells for it to penetrate into the human host cell and then replicate through the endocytes. There are small little vacuoles in the cell. Now, there is a counterbalance between what we call as glycolysis and gluconeogenesis, and it's a complex phenotype. What this drug is supposed to do is it's supposed to block off the glucose metabolism for the virus and help in recovery, and it actually decreases the replication of the virus. So this is great news because it is homegrown. It is something which will be very affordable, accessible. It's oral, and it can be used early on in the disease as soon as.
All right, Dr. Wali, sir, you need to mute yourself, sir, when you talk. Yeah. Anyway, Dr. Bagai, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So it's extremely good. It especially will be very useful in diabetics, especially type 2 diabetics, in patients who are obese, who already have a dysregulated glucose metabolism. With regards to the second drug, which is a cocktail of antibodies, it's monoclonal antibodies. The monoclonal antibodies act differently. They are also antiviral. They work to block off the various parts of the spike protein. And we know that these spike proteins have different kinds of areas of the genomic code where these antiviral monoclonal antibodies work. It's a cocktail because we are not targeting one part of the S protein, the different parts of the S protein, and also the N part, what we call as N-terminal domain. So both these drugs work differently, but they will be very useful. The Indian product from DRDO, I'm sure, will get a license very quickly. The international product, which is internationally known as Regeneron, is also been licensed abroad. It's been used extensively in US hospitals and settings, and I'm sure the Indian approval agencies will give its nod quickly. Of course, the international product is supposed to be expensive. It is to be used under medical supervision. It's not something which you can use just sitting at home unsupervised or store or stock it at home. But both these drugs are extremely beneficial, and will help aid in our fight against COVID.
Dr. Wali, how significant is the advent of these two medicines in countering the kind of situation India finds itself in?
Well, I'll explain you in a very simple way. When a person is suffering from virus infection or viremia, virus tries to consume a lot of energy from that patient. And there is another phenomena which happens in such patients, that their muscle mass starts reducing, as Dr. Bagai said. It's all glucose metabolism, and there is a thing called breakdown of the glucose. Just like a woodcutter cuts the wood from the tree and tree gets denuded, no leaves left, only stem left, sort of. That's why some people have a lot of weight loss when they suffer from COVID. This is called eating your own flesh, auto-cannibalism. And this is a very sad situation. So muscle mass gets reduced. So this portion of catabolism is reduced most probably by this drug. And there is too much evidence about it. And that is all, it binds with the endothelial function, it binds with the oxidative stress, it binds with lots of pathways which are common in antioxidant damage, or it's called ROS, reactive oxygen species. So all this combined, they were very quietly working for last year. And this is a very simple thing. And as Dr. May said, person would surprise why I'm having glucose. No, it can be taken by diabetics. And it's very simple to consume and would reduce 3.25 days of hospital stay. And the only thing which my daughter pointed out when I discussed with her last night, that look here, there is a eureka. My daughter said the trials are on a smaller number. Never mind, this glucose is glucose. It's a modified glucose. It's like DG. We in our ministry, DG is Director General in every ministry. So it's a DG, it won't harm anyone. So it's a lighter mood. So it's a very serious discovery, and there's no dispute about it. As Sir has said that there is a monoclonal antibody, yes, they're quite costly. This is one thing which it would be the first drug which we were discussing. We can't call it a drug right now. First discovery is, it's like a powder and is easily available within the reach of a common man, made in India, no hassles. But this monoclonal antibody is quite expensive. That's the tag attached to it. And therefore it's beyond the reach of common people, common man. Even some hospitals can't afford it, government-run hospital. So they have to have a specific funding about it. So very good that you have chosen this topic for today's discussion, and I will be more enlightened by the co-speakers. And I would say this is remarkable, amazing discovery, and especially in a time, the most important part in this 2D glucose is that it reduces oxygen consumption. So we are in a crisis situation for oxygen, and therefore it's a what you call happy sign or win-win situation. So good, very good. And I compliment you and your channel to talk about it because this is our DRDO, my own country's organization, and a lot of credit should go to them. Of course, they incorporated Reddy's laboratory from Hyderabad, which is, of course, they have to do that. And similar thing has been made by Cipla also. There is a mention about that on the same principle. And about the, I would say, add one thing, that this antibody is also made by an Indian company, Atolizumab, I think, and Dr. Bagai, Atolizumab, by that famous lady. So this we have already made a monoclonal antibody, but that is monoclonal, not cocktail. And an American doctor woke up to hear the launch of this, who is my friend. He woke up in the night because it was launched at 11 o'clock. And he was very impressed by the way this was, but we did not give more importance to that somehow. I don't know the reasons, but Atolizumab is very good. Indian product is already there.
Absolutely, Dr. Tyagi, your assessment of this new product, and considering that oxygen is something that it will make available more to the person who's suffering from COVID-19. This will also give some sort of a window or a respite to the infrastructure and to the requirement for oxygen, which has been found depleted across the country, in a way that patients can recover, getting into too complicated modes and not requiring oxygen as well. And this indeed is a great novel discovery which has been made indigenously.
Yeah, great. That's a great news which we got just yesterday, and of course, it is an Indian product. And as 2DG, 2-deoxy-D-glucose, as it is told, it is an Indian product made by that DRDO through in mass, along with the ready laboratories, and more so, it is being used in the. Of course, that as Dr. Wali told that trials are less in the phase 2 clinical trial. There was a number of participants, 120, 110, and in the phase 3 trial it is 220 only. Of course, the trial number is less, but of course it reduces the hospital stay, and of course mainly that reduces the supplemental oxygen dependence, which already you told you. That's a very welcome step, and it is the news came when we are in the crisis. India is in the crisis, and more so throughout all the major cities. Delhi is just recovering, and Mumbai has recovered, and the UP and other states are in the, particularly in the Karnataka states, the situation is very grim, and it is a very welcome news. And of course, we should, it is a good step. Of course, the only thing is that the trials are less, and the times to come and to use what are the side effects can be. When the number of patients, it is being tested on the more number of patients, so that we will come exactly what can be the some side effects, if at all are there. And
Okay.
that is the one thing, that it is totally Indian, and and easy to take. It is in the powder form, and no doctor, no injection required for or no supervision required. And of course, it has to be given under the supervision doctor, but patient or the relative can easily take by taking in with the water and all.
Right, Dr. Bagai, there are around 35 drugs which at this point in time find under development criteria to treat COVID-19. Is there going to be a time in the future when COVID will be dismissed as a disease just like diarrhea or consumption? Something that you don't worry about if you catch, or do you think that the kind of disposition the virus has shown of survival, we will be grappling this for much longer than the initial phases of perhaps a tuberculosis or diarrhea?
So two parts to your question. One is, of course, with regards what's happening with the virus. So on one hand, I think it's shown the great depth and versatility of the global vaccine industry, in which we managed to pull out a vaccine in less than 10, 11 months. Although we've used various kinds of technologies which were already pre-existing. But all said and done, global collaboration in terms of multi-centric, multi-continental trials have been mainly successful in having enough clinical trial base to have the data published and get it approved. Probably in years to come, we will see a common coronavirus, universal coronavirus vaccine. Those trials are already underway in the US. There are also trials which have combined the influenza vaccine with the corona vaccine, because influenza gives a heterogeneous cross-reactivity. So there are various kinds of trials which are happening as far as the vaccine front is concerned. On the other hand, it's shown the fragility of medical science, if I may use the word, because till date we don't have astute antiviral which can actually shoot this pathogen down. There have been various things tried and proposed and hypothesized last year. Most of them have fallen by the wayside. And the only thing which actually works is early recognition of symptoms, astute and appropriate judgment of use of steroids without it being overused or misused, and supplementary oxygen, and of course supportive therapy from respiratory point of view. But really nothing else has truly worked. Everything else is peripheral. But with regards to what's really in store, if you ask me if I have a crystal ball, in months and year to come, probably this will peter off into what we call as an endemic state. It will continue to have regional surges, much like smaller epidemics, but it will not be pan-India or a global pandemic. There are already coronaviruses which exist in the world. coronaviruses very briefly are of 4 types: alpha, beta, gamma, delta. This is the beta coronavirus. There are 4 beta coronaviruses. This is one amongst the 4, which is SARS-CoV-2. Sorry. And the other 3 have already existed for many decades in the human respiratory tract. They are called as common cold coronaviruses. So what we probably will reach is E as endemic, ECCC-CoV-2. So that's common cold coronaviruses. So this will also become less virulent over a period of time, and we'll learn to live with it. We are already learning to live with it. Every year, probably there will be a tweaking of the vaccine for the then existing annual strain. But at the present moment, we have to deal with what is happening now at hand, and the best bet is actually the only vaccine which we have in it.
Absolutely. And Dr. Wali, your thoughts on the depleted stock of vaccine in our country, and at a time when you have the crisis showing its much uglier face, there is no vaccine to be administered, and when you have news coming that DRDO has been able to come up with an indigenous mode of curing or slowing down COVID-19, it's heartening indeed. But even if it's launched, you said that it's an expensive proposition, and if it's launched, it will need government support, it would need monetary support from other organizations as well, and even liberalization to that extent is an important factor that we have been speaking of. Vaccine liberalization is another one of those. You think that when these drugs come out, the government needs to be faster in their response time? Because obviously 4 lakh cases is something that we've been reporting consecutively, and the trend doesn't seem to be slowing down. Else, it's slowed down in Delhi, in Bombay and other parts of the country, but at a holistic level, you're still not out of the woods.
Well, I would not be scaring, I was so happy. I was smiling when Dr. Bagai was speaking. Let it be like Dr. Saab has said, and have a brighter future for tomorrow. But things are going mad. As you said, we are very, very careful about vaccination. Still, from the supply side, there is lack of numbers available, and the numbers people are available are more to take the vaccine. And it looks very odd for me to say there is shortage of vaccine. It also looks very odd for me to sit here and say the production is less. I have justified this by saying the demand is more and more people are coming forward. But this is a tragic history behind it. Long back, couple of years back, 35,000 crore was sanctioned for vaccine production. Unfortunately, funds have not been appropriately utilized, and initially 7 or 8 companies, I think 9 companies in India were doing research on vaccine when we were making notes what's happening on the vaccine front in November and December. I was studying and I found that many companies, we have many pharmaceutical giants who can produce vaccine, but these 2 have come out, and one of them has taken orders from all over the world and is finding it difficult to supply to India. So people are talking about some cooperative federalism. The countries who have accumulated lots of surplus vaccine should come forward and help countries like India, and which would be a gesture of kindness, and we will return their vaccine. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to achieve the numbers which we are talking, and the whole country has to be vaccinated. Hardly a small percentage of youngsters have been vaccinated. We have started very recently. Very infinitesimal number, 0.6 to 8%, 0.6 to 0.8%. And adults also above 60 and under 60, between 45 and 60 is not more than 4%. So it's a very, very traumatic to know that lots of manpower associated with vaccination, people coming forward, and somewhere something is wrong. So what initially I used to say, sitting on your channel, it is a logistics issue. But now I am trying to understand this something like the numbers are not matched. The numbers people are coming forward for vaccination, and numbers the vaccines are being produced. Of course, now we have to see the results of Sputnik coming in. So it's a good thing that Sputnik has come in, and it's also a good thing that there is a raise of patent. The patent has been lifted. So there could be easier supply of raw material, which they have already lifted the ban, and the lifting of this what you call the supply demand and chain, that would also help. So what we have to do, as you said rightly, the summing up, we have to get vaccinated. We have to move the people to the vaccination centers. tell them to get vaccinated. Vaccination is easy, vaccination is less dangerous than anything else, and vaccination is a short way of fighting with corona, growth of corona and new cases. Some cases have been reported post-vaccination, but there is no cause yet defined. So one should not get scared of vaccination and go for vaccination. That's my message through your channel. And that's the only way to fight corona and the menace of corona. And we have to fight for third wave. We have to fight problems for children. We have been discussing time to time. And yesterday, one thing came to my mind in my house. I was climbing through my lift. I said, we have to talk about crutches also. Crutches for the youngsters. We have been talking about neonatal ICUs, pediatric wards, pediatric beds, pediatric ICUs, and so on, pediatric trained nurses, pediatric doctors. Dr. Bagai is himself present. I will agree with me that we will also need the crutches also. In the British period, there was crutch attached to every government office. Gradually, they have vanished. So this might be a future need, and same might be true for everything else.
Okay. Dr. Tyagi, where do you stand on the depleting stock of the vaccine? And like Dr. Bagai and Dr. Wali said, that's your only defense. We can talk about the newer medicine being available after some time, but they're still on the horizon. In the meantime, your vaccination is your only defense. But India is obviously not producing enough because there are only a couple of companies, and they can't keep up with the kind of demand which is being showing up on a daily basis. In the meantime, what is the common citizen supposed to do? Obviously, there is good news. DRDO is making this. There are other companies which are being given emergency clearances to come into India and come up with ways to stop COVID-19. But the vaccine, which is immediate, very close in proximity, is not available. What is the citizen supposed to do?
Yeah, you rightly said, as just after Dr. Wali, which of course we all three of them are telling that vaccination is the only solution. And initially, when the vaccination started, people were scared of vaccination. Even the healthcare professionals were not going for the vaccination, including the doctors, nurses, and other staff. But later on, we came to know through you, through media, through newspaper, and when the celebrities like Prime Minister himself get vaccinated, CM getting vaccinated, the people are not scared of vaccination. They are going for vaccination, but when we go through the news channel and all, we just heard that Arun Kejriwal is saying that we are short of supply. Maharashtra CM also saying that we are short of supply. Then people are now scared that they will not get vaccinated. They are going for the vaccination, and now the thing will be that people will get a first dose and they will not be able to get the second dose. Now the government has to ensure that availability of the vaccine has to be ensured at the war foot level, like the government has tackled the oxygen emergency. When we were short of oxygen supply, all the administrative hurdles were taken care of. Like this, only all the administrative hurdles, whatever the finances are involved, they have to take care that vaccines are available and people should get vaccinated. Till the vaccination is, they get themselves vaccinated, they have to follow the COVID appropriate behavior, which we are repeatedly saying. Use mask. If you are able to use double mask, it is always better. Don't go outside unless until it is very urgent and necessary, and use appropriate behavior like hand sanitization, use of sanitizer, hand hygiene. These are the only measures which will save us, and of course vaccination is the only answer, which we repeatedly saying through you.
Dr. Bagai, in your opinion, we're in a predicament when it comes to the vaccine. What's your pointed solution to this right now?
Enhance the production of the two companies. The formula belongs to nobody. The ingredients belong to nobody. They belong to India. There would be more than these two places which can manufacture the same ingredients, same vaccine. So we need more production houses of the same vaccine. At the moment, it's only coming out from Serum Institute and only from Bharat Biotech in Hyderabad. A 0.4 or 5 or 6 different factories which can manufacture the same. The vaccines need to be adequately funded so that there is no discrepancy of central versus state pricing. There has to be uniform pricing. Point number 2 is Sputnik is already here. Allow in JJ, allow in Pfizer, ASAP. So that will be 4 in the fray. Zydus Cadila is supposed to be hitting the market around July, August. So that will be number 5. So we need about 4 or 5 platforms. Point number 2 is liberalize it. Do not go through this portal. Don't go through registration. Just allow walk-in registration, walk-in patients. You need 2 things of concern. One is the data, so you can have a photocopy of the Aadhaar card that is more than adequate. And point number 2 is a simple safety protocol for 20-25 minutes observation after the vaccine. Point number 3, you already have wheels in place, you already have infrastructure in place. 75% of the healthcare is private, and out of the 75% private, 55-60% is family physicians, primary care physicians, general practitioners. Please utilize them to promote the vaccine cause. They have huge databases, lot of following in the local community. Let them also allow them to have the vaccinations available to them. You will double, triple, quadruple the number in no time. Last, most importantly, is don't restrict it to the number of vaccines per day. If you can have cricket stadiums converted into hospitals, have one large stadia, sports arena in every city, every town into a vaccine hub. You can probably do 10,000 vaccinations every day in those kind of places. We need to reach this target very quickly before the virus mutates again.
Absolutely. Those are golden words. We need to do it quickly. We need to expedite the giving away of the vaccine before the virus can mutate, because it's mutated now, and the kind of havoc that we've had to deal with, the kind of uncertainty that we've had to survive through is